The Black Envelope. Part 1. The Mysterious Envelope. Tom Carter was a simple man who worked as a mailman in a quiet town. He enjoyed his daily routine of delivering letters and packages to the friendly neighbors he had known for years. Tom was a single father to his 10-year-old daughter, Lily, who was the light of his life. Every day, he worked hard to give her a happy and safe home. One morning, as the sun rose and cast a golden glow over the sleepy town, Tom picked up his mailbag from the post office. He swung it over his shoulder, as he had done countless times before, and began his route. The day was calm, the air cool, and everything felt normal. As Tom delivered letters, he hummed a cheerful tune. He reached the end of one street, stopped under a shady tree, and opened his bag to check the next set of addresses. That's when he noticed it. A black envelope. It was sleek and plain, with no name, no stamp, and no return address. Tom frowned. He was sure he hadn't seen it before. He hadn't picked up any such envelope from the post office that morning. Curiosity took over and he opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with neat, typed words. "We have your daughter. If you want her back, follow our instructions carefully. Do not contact the police. If you do, she will die." Tom's heart pounded so hard he thought it might stop. His hands trembled as he pulled out a photo tucked inside the paper. It was Lily. She was sitting in a dark room, her eyes wide with fear. "No, no, no, no," Tom whispered, his voice shaky. He looked around, hoping this was some kind of prank, but there was no one nearby, only the rustling leaves of the tree above him. Desperate to know more, he turned the paper over. There were instructions. "Deliver all the mail in your bag except this envelope. At the last house, you will find a blue car parked near the mailbox. Get inside. There will be a package in the passenger seat. Take it and follow the GPS directions inside the car." Tom's first instinct was to run to the police. But the note's warning echoed in his mind. "Do not contact the police. If you do, she will die." His thoughts raced. Who could have done this? Why him? He had no enemies, no debts, and no secrets. And why Lily? She was just a child. Tom knew he had no choice. He had to do as they said. With every step he took to deliver the rest of the mail, his mind spun in a loop of fear and questions. The houses on his route blurred into one another as he struggled to keep himself steady. He couldn't stop thinking about Lily, her smile, her laugh, and her trusting eyes. She needed him, and he couldn't fail her. Finally, he reached the last house on his route. Just as the note had said, there was a blue car parked near the mailbox. It was an old, rusty sedan with tinted windows. The sight of it made his stomach churn. Tom hesitated, his feet feeling like they were glued to the ground. This was it. If he stepped inside, he would be walking into the unknown. But if he didn't, he couldn't even think about what might happen to Lily. Taking a deep breath, Tom opened the car door and climbed inside. As soon as he sat down, the GPS screen lit up with an address already entered. Beside him was a small package wrapped in plain brown paper. There was another note attached. Drive to the location. Do not open the package. Do not try to escape. Tom's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. The fear and worry he felt were almost too much to bear. He glanced at the package, wondering what was inside. Could it be dangerous? But he didn't dare open it. The engine roared to life and Tom started driving. The streets he knew so well suddenly felt foreign and hostile. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. As the car moved closer to the destination, a single thought kept replaying in his head. I have to save Lily, no matter what. Part 2. The package and the first task. Tom drove in silence, the GPS guiding him through the familiar streets of his town. But today, those streets felt cold and strange. Every corner seemed darker. Every shadow seemed to hide something sinister. His heart was heavy with fear for Lily. The GPS led him to the edge of town, where old warehouses stood abandoned. The car stopped in front of a large, gray building with broken windows and graffiti on the walls. Tom hesitated for a moment, staring at the crumbling structure. The GPS screen flashed a message. Take the package and go inside. Room 4. Do not ask questions. Tom picked up the small package from the passenger seat. It was light but firm, like it held something solid inside. His hands shook as he opened the car door and stepped out. The cool air felt heavy, almost pressing against him. The warehouse door creaked loudly as he pushed it open. Inside, it was dark and dusty, with faint beams of sunlight filtering through the cracked roof. The smell of dampness and rust filled the air. He found a staircase and climbed to the second floor, where the note had said room 4 would be. The hallway was dimly lit by a flickering bulb. Each step Tom took echoed loudly, making him feel even more alone. Finally, he reached a door with the number 4 painted on it. He paused, his breathing uneven, and knocked lightly. The door swung open by itself. Inside was a small, empty room with a single chair and a table. On the table was a phone and another envelope, this one white. Tom stepped inside cautiously, his heart thudding in his chest. He placed the package on the table and opened the white envelope. The note inside read, "Open the package. Inside you will find a USB drive. Take it to the cafe downtown. Sit at table 3. A man will come to you. Hand him the USB. Say nothing else." Tom stared at the package, unsure if he should do it. But then he thought about Lily, and the fear of losing her pushed him forward. He tore open the package and found exactly what the note had described: a small black USB drive. He slipped it into his pocket and quickly left the warehouse. As he drove toward the cafe, his mind raced with questions. What was on the USB? Who was the man he had to meet? And why was this happening to him? The cafe was a cozy little spot in the heart of town, a place Tom and Lily used to visit on weekends. The thought of her sipping hot chocolate while giggling at his silly jokes brought tears to his eyes. Tom parked the car and walked inside. The cafe was busy with the lunchtime crowd, but his instructions were clear. He found table 3 near the window and sat down, clutching the USB in his pocket. Minutes felt like hours as he waited. Every time someone entered the cafe, Tom's body tensed. He looked at each face, wondering if they were the person he was supposed to meet. Finally, a man in a gray hoodie walked in. He looked around the cafe, spotted Tom, and approached the table. "You have something for me," the man said in a low voice, his face hidden under the hood. Tom pulled out the USB and handed it over, just as the note instructed. The man nodded, pocketed the USB, and slid another envelope across the table. Without another word, he turned and left. Tom stared at the envelope for a moment before opening it. "Good. Now drive to the old bridge on Elm Road. There, you will find a black bag under the middle railing. Take it and wait for further instructions." Elm Road was deserted and eerie. The old bridge stretched over a shallow, muddy river, its metal beams rusty and creaking in the wind. Tom parked his car nearby and walked onto the bridge. His eyes scanned the railing, and soon he spotted the black bag. It was tucked under the middle railing, just as the note had said. Tom hesitated before picking it up, his hands clammy with fear. The bag felt heavy, and he couldn't help but wonder what was inside. He unzipped it slightly and froze. Stacks of cash. There must have been thousands, maybe even more. Tom's breath quickened as he zipped the bag shut. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out and saw an unknown number flashing on the screen. Hesitantly, he answered. A distorted voice spoke. "Good. You've done well so far. Now listen carefully. Take the bag to Greenfield Park. Leave it under the bench near the fountain. You have 30 minutes. Don't be late." Before Tom could say anything, the line went dead. Tom rushed back to his car, the black bag clutched tightly in his hands. His mind was spinning. This was no ordinary kidnapping. These people were organized, careful, and powerful. He felt like a pawn in a game he didn't understand. As he drove toward Greenfield Park, one thought kept him going. I have to do whatever it takes to save Lily. Part 3. The twist begins. Tom drove to Greenfield Park, gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows over the quiet streets. The black bag sat on the passenger seat, a constant reminder of the impossible situation he was in. Greenfield Park had always been a peaceful place, with its well-kept lawns, blooming flowers, and a large fountain in the center. But today, it felt anything but peaceful. Tom parked his car at the edge of the park and stepped out, carrying the bag. As he walked toward the fountain, he scanned the area. There were a few people scattered around. A man walking his dog, a woman jogging, and a couple sitting on a bench. None of them seemed to notice him. Tom spotted the bench near the fountain mentioned in the instructions. He approached it cautiously and slid the black bag underneath, just as he had been told. Before he could leave, his phone buzzed again. It was the same unknown number. "You're being watched, Tom," the distorted voice said. "Do not try anything foolish. Sit on the bench and wait for further instructions." Tom's stomach turned. He glanced around, trying to spot anyone who might be watching him, but everyone in the park looked normal, busy with their own lives. Who was it? The jogger? The dog walker? He sat on the bench as instructed, his heart pounding. Minutes passed, feeling like hours. His phone buzzed again, and he quickly answered. "Good. Now there's something you need to know," the voice said. "This is bigger than you think. We're not just here for money. Look under the bench. There's a second package taped underneath. Take it and leave the park immediately." Tom hesitated for a moment before feeling under the bench. Sure enough, there was a small package taped to the underside. He pulled it free and quickly walked back to his car, his pulse racing. Once inside the car, Tom locked the doors and opened the package. Inside was a small voice recorder and another note. The note read, "Play the recording. Listen carefully." Tom pressed the button on the recorder. A deep voice began to speak, calm yet chilling. "Tom, you've been following our instructions well, but there's something you don't know. The people who took your daughter aren't who they claim to be. They're part of a larger network, a dangerous one. Your next task is to expose them." Tom's heart skipped a beat. What was this? Expose them? He thought this was about saving Lily. The recording continued. "In the next envelope you receive, you'll find information about their operation. These aren't just kidnappers, Tom. They're criminals involved in smuggling, bribery, and worse. Your daughter is safe for now. Follow the next steps to uncover their secrets and bring them down." Tom sat frozen, his mind spinning. Safe? For now? Could he trust this voice? Was this all a setup? As if on cue, his phone buzzed with a new text message. It was a photo of Lily, still in the dark room but looking unharmed. Below the photo was a message. "Trust us, Tom. Do as we say. Check the glove compartment." Tom opened the glove compartment and found another envelope. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a list of names and addresses. There was also a map with a location circled in red. The note read, "This is their hideout. Inside, you'll find documents that can bring their entire operation down. Your task is to get those documents and deliver them to us. If you succeed, you'll get your daughter back." Tom's mind raced. Was this all a trap? What if this so-called bigger operation was just a way to manipulate him further? He had no way of knowing who to trust. But he didn't have a choice. If there was even a small chance this could lead to Lily's safety, he had to take it. The circled location on the map was an abandoned farmhouse on the outskirts of town. Tom drove there, every turn of the wheel filled with dread. When he arrived, the farmhouse looked deserted. The windows were boarded up, and the yard was overgrown with weeds. He parked the car a short distance away and approached on foot, staying low and quiet. The door was unlocked, creaking loudly as he pushed it open. Inside, the farmhouse was dark and smelled of mildew. Tom's footsteps echoed on the wooden floor as he searched the rooms. In one of the back rooms, he found a small desk covered in papers. He rifled through them, his hands moving quickly but carefully. Most of it looked like harmless bills and receipts, but then he found a folder marked with a red X. Inside were pages filled with names, dates, and transactions. There were details about illegal deals, bribes to officials, and even plans for smuggling operations. "This is it," Tom whispered to himself. As he stuffed the folder into his bag, he heard a noise behind him, a soft creak of the floorboards. He spun around, his heart racing. Standing in the doorway was a man in a black mask, holding a gun. "Drop the bag," the man said coldly. Tom's mind raced. If he gave up the folder, he might lose his only chance to save Lily. But if he didn't, the man stepped closer, his gun aimed directly at Tom. "I said, drop the bag." Tom had no choice. Slowly, he placed the bag on the floor. The man grabbed it and backed out of the room, keeping his gun trained on Tom the entire time. "Don't follow me," the man warned before disappearing into the shadows. Tom sank to the floor, his body trembling. He had failed. The folder was gone, and with it, any hope of saving Lily. But as he sat there, something caught his eye. A piece of paper that had fallen from the folder. It was a note with a single word scrawled across it. "Trust no one." Tom clenched his fists. He wasn't giving up. Whoever these people were, he was going to fight back. For Lily. Part 4. A Glimmer of Truth. Tom sat in the empty farmhouse, clutching the cryptic note that had fallen from the stolen folder. "Trust no one." The words echoed in his mind. Every decision he had made so far was based on the belief that following instructions would bring Lily back. Now, he wasn't sure who was pulling the strings or what game he was caught in. He forced himself to stand, his legs shaky but determined. He couldn't waste time. The folder might be gone, but he still had this note. Maybe it meant something. Maybe it was a clue, a mysterious ally. Tom decided to return to his car. As he approached it, he noticed something strange. A piece of paper was tucked under the windshield wiper. His heart raced as he pulled it out and unfolded it. It read, "They lied to you. If you want to know the truth, go to 42 Willow Lane. Come alone." Tom's first instinct was to ignore it. This could be another trap. But then again, everything felt like a trap at this point. If he ignored it, he might lose a chance to find Lily. If he followed it, he might be walking into danger. He weighed his options and decided to take the risk. The meeting at Willow Lane. Willow Lane was a quiet street lined with small, weathered houses. Number 42 was at the far end, partially hidden by overgrown bushes. Tom parked a little distance away and walked cautiously toward the house. The front door was slightly ajar. He hesitated, then pushed it open. "Hello," he called out, his voice trembling. "Close the door behind you," a voice said from the shadows. Tom turned and saw a woman sitting at a small table in the dimly lit room. She looked calm, almost too calm for someone meeting a stranger in such strange circumstances. "Who are you?" Tom asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "My name doesn't matter," the woman said. "What matters is that you're being used, Tom." Tom narrowed his eyes. "Used? By who?" "The people who contacted you. The ones who took your daughter. They're not kidnappers. They're part of a criminal network, yes, but they're not the ones holding Lily." Tom felt a surge of anger. "Then where is she? What's going on?" The woman leaned forward, her voice low and serious. "They staged the kidnapping to control you. They needed someone like you, a regular guy, a father desperate to save his child. They're making you do their dirty work. But they never planned to let your daughter go." Tom's head spun. "You're lying," he said, though deep down, he felt a horrible sinking feeling. "I wish I were," the woman said. She slid a photo across the table. "This is where they're keeping her." Tom's hands shook as he picked up the photo. It showed a small cabin in the woods. Through the window, he could see Lily sitting on a chair, her hands tied. This is real," he whispered. The woman nodded. "If you want to save her, you need to stop following their instructions. Do you understand? They're playing you the plan." Tom's mind raced. He didn't know if he could trust this woman, but the photo looked real. More than that, her story made sense. Everything about this situation felt too organized, too calculated. "What do I do?" he asked finally. The woman handed him a map. "This is the location of the cabin. But you can't go in unprepared. They'll be watching you, and they won't hesitate to hurt Lily if they think you're a threat." Tom clenched his fists. "Then how do I save her?" "You'll need to act fast and smart," the woman said. "First, you have to distract them. They'll expect you to follow their next instructions. Pretend you're playing along. That will buy you time to reach the cabin." Tom nodded. It was a risky plan, but it was the best one he had. The double game. His phone buzzed as he left the house. Another message from the distorted voice. "We know what you're doing, Tom. Keep going or you'll regret it." Tom felt a wave of fear but forced himself to stay calm. He typed back, "I'm doing exactly what you want. Tell me the next step." The response came quickly. "Good. Go to 16 Harbor Street. There's a storage unit. Inside, you'll find another package. Bring it to us." Tom followed the instructions, driving to the storage unit. It was a cold, silent place, with rows of metal doors stretching endlessly. He found Unit 12 and stepped inside. The package was there, a plain box sealed with tape. He picked it up and noticed it was heavier than the last one. Before leaving, he opened it slightly, just enough to see inside. His heart sank when he saw what it held. A gun and a piece of paper with someone's name and address. They wanted him to kill someone. The breaking point. Tom sat in his car, staring at the box. He couldn't do it. He couldn't take another person's life, no matter what they threatened. But then he thought of Lily, tied up in that cabin. The image of her frightened face was unbearable. He picked up his phone and called the number from the mysterious woman. "I need your help," he said. Her voice was steady. "I'll guide you. Follow the map to the cabin. I'll take care of the rest." Tom took a deep breath, started the car, and drove toward the woods. This time he wasn't following the criminal's orders. This time he was taking control. Part 5. Into the woods. Tom gripped the steering wheel tightly as he drove toward the cabin. The map from the mysterious woman lay on the seat beside him, and every turn felt like a step deeper into danger. The sun was setting, painting the sky with hues of red and orange, and the forest ahead looked darker with every passing moment. His heart pounded, not just with fear but with determination. This wasn't about following orders anymore. This was about saving Lily, no matter what it took. The cabin in the forest. The dirt road grew narrower until Tom had to park and continue on foot. He grabbed the flashlight from his car and began walking. The forest was eerily quiet, the crunch of leaves under his boots the only sound. When he finally spotted the cabin, his breath caught. It was small and worn down, just like in the photo. A single dim light flickered inside. Through the window, he saw Lily sitting on a wooden chair, her hands tied behind her back. Tom's knees almost gave way. She looked tired, her head hanging low, but she was alive. He wanted to run to her, to burst through the door and untie her, but he stopped himself. The woman's warning echoed in his mind. "They'll be watching you, a dangerous watcher." Tom crouched behind a tree and scanned the area. It didn't take long to spot a man standing near the cabin, partially hidden in the shadows. He was holding a rifle, his eyes scanning the forest. Tom's heart raced. He couldn't overpower the man, not with the gun. He needed a distraction. He remembered the woman's advice. Pretend you're still following their orders. That will buy you time. Tom pulled out his phone and sent a message to the criminals. "I have the package. Where should I deliver it?" The reply came quickly. "Wait for instructions. Do not move." Tom clenched his fists. He didn't have time to wait. The distraction. He decided to create his own diversion. Near the edge of the forest, he found a pile of dry branches and leaves. Using a matchstick from his emergency kit, he lit them on fire. The flames crackled and grew, and soon smoke was rising into the air. Tom hid behind a tree and watched. The man near the cabin noticed the smoke and started walking toward it, rifle in hand. As soon as the man was far enough, Tom sprinted to the cabin. Reaching Lily, Tom opened the door as quietly as he could and rushed to Lily. Her eyes widened when she saw him, and tears streamed down her face. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice weak. Tom quickly untied her hands and hugged her tightly. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here," he said, though his own voice was shaky. We're getting out of here. But just as they started for the door, Tom heard a voice behind him. Well, well, look who decided to play hero. Caught in the act. Tom froze. The man with the rifle was standing in the doorway, his gun pointed straight at them. Thought you could outsmart us. Huh? The man sneered. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Tom shielded Lily with his body. Please, let her go. She's just a child. The man laughed coldly. Too late for begging. You messed with the wrong people. Before the man could take another step, there was a sudden loud noise, a crack like thunder. The man stumbled, dropping his rifle, and collapsed to the ground. Tom turned and saw the mysterious woman standing outside, holding a smoking pistol. Move, she shouted. We don't have much time. A shocking truth. Tom grabbed Lily and ran outside. The woman led them to her car parked nearby. As they drove away, Tom's mind raced with questions. Who was this woman? How had she known where to find them? Who are you? He finally asked. The woman glanced at him in the rearview mirror. I told you before. My name doesn't matter. What matters is the people who did this to you. They're part of something much bigger than you realize. What do you mean? Tom asked, his voice trembling. They don't just kidnap people. They manipulate them, use them to commit crimes without getting their own hands dirty. You were just a pawn in their game. Tom clenched his fists. Why me? Why my daughter? The woman sighed. Because you're ordinary. They thought you'd be easy to control. But you surprised them, Tom. You fought back. The next step. Tom looked at Lily, who was now fast asleep in his arms. He felt a surge of relief and anger. What happens now? He asked. The woman's expression hardened. Now we fight back. I have information that can expose them, but I can't do it alone. I need your help. Tom hesitated. He had just wanted to save his daughter, but now it seemed like he was part of something much larger. He took a deep breath. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure they can't hurt anyone else. The woman nodded. Good. Then let's get started. Part 6. The final move. Tom sat in the back seat of the car, cradling Lily, who was still asleep. His mind was a storm of emotions. Relief, fear, and anger. The woman who had saved them drove in silence, her eyes fixed on the road. Tom wanted answers, but he didn't want to wake Lily. After what felt like hours, the car pulled into an old, abandoned warehouse. The woman stopped the car and turned to face Tom. This is where we plan our next move, she said. Tom frowned. Plan? I thought this was over. I got Lily back. The woman shook her head. They'll come for you again, Tom. You've seen too much. And there are others, families just like yours, being used and hurt by this network. If we don't stop them now, it will never end. Tom's fists tightened. He looked at Lily's peaceful face and nodded. What do we do? The evidence. Inside the warehouse, The woman led Tom to a table covered in papers, maps, and photographs. These are all the people connected to the network, she explained. Politicians, businessmen, criminals. They operate in the shadows, using people like you to carry out their crimes. But I've been gathering evidence for years. We're close to exposing them. Tom's eyes scanned the documents. One photo caught his attention. It was the man he'd seen on the train platform, the one who had handed him the black envelope. That's him, Tom said, pointing to the photo. He started all this. The woman nodded. He's one of their top operatives. If we can take him down, it'll send a message to the rest of the network. But we need more than just evidence. We need to catch them in the act. Tom's stomach churned. And you want me to help with that? Yes, she said firmly. You're the only one who can. They trust you, or at least they think they can control you. If you follow their next set of instructions, we can turn the tables on them. The setup. The woman handed Tom a small recording device. Take this with you. It'll capture everything they say. When they tell you what to do next, follow along, but only until we have enough proof. Tom hesitated. What if they realize I'm working against them? They won't, the woman said confidently. They're arrogant. They think you're broken, that you'll do anything they say to save your daughter. Use that against them. Tom swallowed hard and nodded. Okay. Let's do this. The final task. The next morning, Tom's phone buzzed with a new message. Go to Central Plaza at 4 p.m. Bring the package from the storage unit. Await further instructions. Tom and the woman worked quickly. They opened the package again and replaced the contents, a gun and a list of names, with the recording device and a GPS tracker. At 4 p.m., Tom stood in Central Plaza, the package in his hands. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Somewhere nearby, the woman was watching, ready to act if things went wrong. His phone buzzed again. A man in a gray suit will approach you. Hand him the package and follow him. The confrontation. Tom spotted the man in the gray suit almost immediately. The man walked up to him, his face expressionless. You have the package? The man asked. Tom nodded and handed it over. Follow me, the man said curtly, turning and walking away. Tom followed, his heart pounding. They entered a nearby building and took the elevator to the top floor. The room they entered was dimly lit, with several men sitting around a large table. One of them stood and smiled coldly at Tom. It was the man from the train platform. Good job, Tom, he said. You've been very helpful. Now, let's discuss your reward. Tom stayed silent, gripping the small recorder in his pocket. The man continued, You see, we don't just let people walk away after doing our work. You're a liability now. But don't worry. We'll make sure your daughter is taken care of. Tom's blood boiled. He clenched his fists but forced himself to stay calm. What do you want me to do next? He asked, trying to sound obedient. The man laughed. Oh, there's nothing left for you to do. Your role is over. At that moment, the door burst open and armed officers stormed in. Everyone, freeze, a voice commanded. The sting operation. The woman appeared behind the officers, her gun drawn. You're all under arrest. We've been tracking you for months. The men at the table scrambled to escape, but it was no use. The officers quickly subdued them. The man from the train platform glared at Tom. You set us up. Tom stood tall, his fear replaced by anger. You used me and my daughter. This is over. The man smirked. You think this ends with me? There are others. You'll never stop us all. The woman stepped forward. Maybe not, but we've taken a big step today. A new beginning. Hours later, Tom sat in the woman's car with Lily. She had woken up during the chaos but was now calm, leaning against him. Is it really over? Tom asked. For now, the woman said. But there's always more work to do. People like them don't disappear overnight. Tom looked at Lily and then at the woman. Thank you for everything. She nodded. You're a good man, Tom. You didn't let them break you. That's rare. As the car drove away, Tom held Lily close. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing. He would do whatever it took to protect his daughter and make sure no one else suffered like they had. And for the first time in days, he felt hope. That's the end of the story. If you enjoyed the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more exciting tales. Check out our other videos and share your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for the next adventure. Thanks for watching.